We're going to go ahead and learn Tableau by looking at some real estate data. What I have here is the Case-Shiller index in Excel, and we've got Case-Shiller index numbers for a number of different cities and a number of different dates. I'm simply going to take that sheet and drag it onto my Tableau desktop, and that's going to cause Tableau to connect to that data. Now you can see I've got that file name up here. I'm going to go ahead and simplify that a little bit. I can do that right in line. You can see that I've connected to my table, and I've got a lot of that data right in here, about 7,000 rows of it. So let's go straight into the worksheet, and where I am now is the primary analytical canvas on which you work in Tableau. My data is over here on the left, and I'm going to start by just taking a look at what years I have data for. Now, HPI I know is actually the index generated by Case-Shiller, and in a couple of drag and drops I see a familiar shape here. This looks like the housing bubble and the subsequent crash. Now I know I have data for a number of different cities, so I'm going to go ahead and take city and put it on level of detail. And now you can see that I've actually got data for many different cities. Detroit's at the bottom, Miami's at the top. And I'm going to click into the date information. I'm actually going to go all the way down to the quarter level and then down to the month level. And when my date is green like this, I can use this little button here to click right into it. If your date is blue, you might want to change it to a green date so you get a continuous date in this fashion. And now you're probably familiar with the shape of the Case-Shiller index for different cities or where you may live. And you can also note that some cities' data has only been collected for a certain number of years. For example, in Portland, Maine, it's only been collected since 2000, which is incidentally the year that the index is pegged to 100. So every city is at 100 in the year 2000, and here are all the shapes of the different cities. Now let's add a quick filter so that we can choose which cities we see. I'm going to go ahead and choose some cities in the southeast. Let's look at Atlanta and Charlotte and Miami. Let's add Tampa as well. And you can see that of the cities in the southeast, these two Florida cities were really the highest at the peak of the bubble. Now, Tableau has a number of different filter options that work for different scenarios. I'm going to go ahead and select a single value list for this data so I can click around from one city to another and see the shape of that city, but I can still go back to all. The other thing I'm going to do is that I actually see a couple of composites in here, and I'd like to make those stand out. So to do that, I'm going to add city onto color. All colors in Tableau are formatable. So I'm actually going to go and choose a blue palette for most of the cities and just click there to assign that. But for the composites, since they're a little different, I'm going to assign a light orange and a darker orange and click OK. So in just a couple of minutes, we've created a rich visualization that's highly interactive and colored as I would like to see it. So this is an interesting view of the data. It's a time view of the data. I'm going to right-click on my sheet here, and I'm going to call this index. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another view of the data. Now, we see here that we have state and city in our data. We saw that in our Excel sheet. We didn't have latitude and longitude in the Excel sheet, but that's okay because Tableau knows where these states and cities are. So I'm just going to double-click on city, and when I do that, Tableau looks at my data and is able to put a dot everywhere where I have a city. Now I have two unknown down here, which makes sense to me because I have those two composites, which of course don't have a geographical location. And I could click into that and verify that or filter out the data. As for now, I'm just going to leave it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take that HPI and I'm going to drop it onto size so that you can see what the index is in various cities. Now the problem here is that we're summing an index, which is not something you want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this upside down triangle. Again, Tableau is always trying to choose the right defaults for you, but you can change almost anything like colors or the aggregation. So instead of the sum here, what I'd like to see is the average. And now we're summing the index across all of these different cities for all years. So overall, Seattle was at 114. But of course, these cities started at different times, so an average may not make sense. What we want to do is we actually want to see a progression of this. So let me drop date into the page shelf, as we call it. And now I can simply page through and see how these are changing over time. And to make this a little more dramatic, I might take that index and I might drop it right onto color. And I'm going to go ahead and edit those colors. I'm going to stay away from blue and orange because we use those in the other visualization. I'm going to go ahead and use red, and let me apply that. Actually, I'm going to use stepped color and apply that. And I'm also going to take the size up a little bit so it's easier to see what's happening here. I can do things like add borders simply by clicking onto color and adding a border. Let's make it white there. And now I've got a nice crisp visualization that shows me how the Case-Shiller has changed over time. And of course, as we go through the years, you can see a much darker red in the years where prices were high, and a lighter red in other years. And I can actually hit the play button and have Tableau show me that in a nice animation right here in Tableau Desktop. So I'm going to call this sheet Map. Again, I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to call it Map. It's very easy to make maps in Tableau. As you can see, it just took us a couple of minutes there. And now we're going to put these two views together. Putting views together on a dashboard is one of the most powerful analytical things you can do. So what I did was I just clicked on this little icon down here to get a new dashboard. And when I've got a dashboard, I'm going to start by resizing it to about 800 by 600 so we can see it better on the screen. And now I can add sheets to my dashboard just as I added data to my windows. So let me take the index out. I'm going to click away the color legend here. I'm not sure we really need it. And I'm going to add the map up on top. And now I can do a little bit of formatting. I have a nice view here with all of my different data here. And I'm going to hide the title simply by right-clicking up here. I'm going to go ahead and hide that. But I am going to add a title for my whole dashboard. So I'm going to come up to the menu and I'm going to say Show Title. And let's say, let's just call this Case-Shiller Index. And click OK. Now I'm also going to take a couple of these legends, and I'm going to use again this upside down triangle. I'm going to make this one floating and put it out in the Pacific Ocean just to give us a little bit of room on the right. And I'm going to make this color also floating, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in the Atlantic Ocean again to give us a little bit of room. The play buttons I'm also going to float, and since they only apply to this upper view, we're going to go ahead and leave them in the upper view. And the city filter only applies to this lower view, so we're going to leave that down there. So now I've got a very nice interactive view where I can click through my dates and see how the progression happened. Now another thing I might want to do is I might want to filter from the top to the bottom. So let me use this top sheet as a filter, and I can zoom in on an area of the country from the top to the bottom simply by grabbing that data. So let me zoom in on the top part of the country. And now I have an interactive analytical application that I can use. Let me do one more little formatting thing. Let me go ahead and publish this to Tableau Public. The way I'm going to do that is go to Server, Tableau Public, Save to Web As, and I'll just enter my credentials here. And now what Tableau is doing, let me call this CSI. Now what Tableau is doing is it's actually sending the data and the visualization I've created, the dashboard I've created, up to Tableau Public. And if I take the link that we have here in my preview and go ahead and put that into a browser window, you can see that that I've got that same interactive dashboard. Now I could also take this and embed it into a web page simply by clicking Share and grabbing that that embed code just like a YouTube video. So now I've got a very nice interactive dashboard. I can actually click around and choose cities to see a detail for. And I can evaluate how different cities in the US did throughout the housing crisis.